Good morning, Coach Dan here, the most positive coach in the business. As it's Mental Health Awareness Month, I'd like to take a moment to talk with you about mental health issues and give you a brief introduction to cognitive behavioural therapy, that's CBT, and equip you with a few techniques that can improve your mental health. As I'll be speaking from my own experience, I'll focus on depression and anxiety primarily. However, CBT is relevant to anger issues, low self-esteem, OCD, a number of different conditions really. And most of these techniques are transferable or even beneficial if you don't suffer from any mental health conditions at all and you're just looking to improve your mindset. So it's beneficial for everyone. I've often said that I think that CBT should be taught in schools at an early age. Everybody should do it because everybody will benefit from it, and prevention obviously is better than cure. So if you have these techniques in your brain, you'll be able to cope a lot better in stressful situations. So if you've ever trained with me or you follow my live streams on YouTube, you'll know that I'm constantly banging on about the benefits of mental toughness, positive self-talk, positive coaching, and generally keeping a positive mental attitude. And I can't overstate how powerful our minds are. When you stop to think about it, really, it's quite scary how little we understand about our own thoughts and the way our brains work. Keeping a healthy mind is hard, and it's constant work. And it needs attention, it needs effort, it needs a lot of effort and attention basically to stay in shape. Just like our bodies, our minds need training, and it's a long process. Not something magically happening overnight, it's a long process. But with the right strategies, the right support, the right understanding, everyone can improve their mental health and live a much better life. Trust me, I've done it. And it's still a journey for me, and every day I have to put work in, just like I do with my body, I have to do it with my mind as well. So, like I said, we're going to talk a little bit about depression. So what is depression? Okay, 1 in 4 people experience some form of mental health issue each year, and depression is actually the second most common affliction after anxiety. So it's quite likely that we all know someone who suffered from one of these conditions. But let me say, if you feel that you are struggling with any mental health condition or issue, please see a doctor, get a consultation, have a chat with them, okay? Unfortunately, there's still a really big stigma about mental health issues, and people are a bit reluctant to seek help. But look at it this way, right? If you broke your arm, you'd go see a doctor. If you had a rash or a cough or a pain, you didn't know what was hurting you, chances are you'd just go and see a doctor and they'd square it away for you, right? So why is your brain any different? If you're starting to struggle with your thoughts and things like that, why not go and see a doctor? Exactly the same, and fellas especially, we're all a bit like, yeah, we're a bit too hard to our feelings, and just put your ego in check, right? Mental and physical health are intrinsically linked. There's a link between them, but they're not the same, and they shouldn't be treated the same. Okay, so you make your body strong, you make your body fit, that's great. But you need to make your mind inquisitive, it needs to be sensitive, it needs to be logical, it needs to look at things in a balanced way. Okay, there's no benefit in being cold and unfeeling and basically being too hard to feel anything. Okay, the mind's very different to the body, so you can be big, you can be strong, you can be tough, but you can still be sensitive and you can still look at things in a balanced way. Okay, there's no shame in that. It's actually bloody awesome. So depression, basically, what is depression? We'll get back to that. It comes in 2 forms, okay? I'm sure there are many other forms, but the two main forms that we'll talk about is the first being a chemical imbalance, all right? So basically your brain stops producing serotonin, which is the happy hormone, or it doesn't produce enough serotonin. Okay, so no matter how well things go in your life, how successful you are, how great your relationships are, how much money you make, or everything you've got, your brain doesn't allow you to appreciate it, so you don't get any gratification from those achievements. So you're constantly depressed, and you're constantly down, and you have no fulfillment in life, because your brain doesn't create enough serotonin. Okay, so this basically, it can happen to anyone at any time, all right? And basically for that, you need to see a doctor, and you need a course of medication to alleviate that, basically to get you back on track and get your body producing serotonin again. So the second I'll refer to is bereavement depression. So something happens in your life that acts as a trigger. So maybe a loved one dies, a pet dies, you go through a messy breakup, you lose your job, something happens, and it sends you into a bit of a spiral, okay? And basically our normal brave waves are disrupted, we become depressed and overwhelmed, and we struggle to cope with our own thoughts, and because of that, we often dig ourselves into a hole. So if you look at it like this, okay, we've got 2 lines here, so we've got happy and sad. Okay, our normal brainwaves, there we go, usually fluctuate around the middle. So they just pop down, pop down, pop down. You know, we have happy times, we have sad times. When you have a bit of bereavement, something that knocks you off track, these brainwaves spiral over to the sad section of the brain. And without treatment and without CBT, they stay there. And no matter what you do, you wake up in the morning, you have these bad thoughts and things like that, and that activates what we're going to talk about in a little while, is the self-sustaining cycle. And basically you just go down and down and spiral and spiral and spiral. So you need to bring those brainwaves back over into the healthy range. And that's what CBT is all about. So the question there is, how do you know what type of depression you've got? Chances are you may have a little bit of both. You may have one, you may have the other. But the answer is, go see a doctor. Talk to your GP. Okay? I'm going to talk a lot actually a bit later in this little discussion about what the NHS offers. If you're in the south, the southwest, like I am in Dorset, Hampshire, and that kind of area, we have Steps to Wellbeing, which is a fantastic resource, just chock-block full of positive mental attitude, segments you can do, modules you can do, and also talking therapies. Every region around the country has their own, but ours is called Steps to Wellbeing. So see a doctor. Steps to Wellbeing. Okay, let's move on then to what is CBT? What is cognitive behavioural therapy? Bit of a complicated term, so I prefer just to refer to it as brain training. So it's training your brain to see things in a more balanced light. Okay, cognitive, that refers to the brain's psychological processes, so our thoughts. Behavioural is the way we act, the way we behave, the way we interact with each other in the outside world. So cognitive behavioural therapy basically is retraining our brains to change the way we think about the world, change the way we think about ourselves, and create a more balanced and healthy image of what's actually going on around us. Okay. Earlier we spoke briefly about the self-sustaining cycle. So the self-sustaining cycle is that relationship between our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviour. So if we have a quick look at this diagram, so we have thoughts at the top, okay, and then we have feelings, and then we have behaviour. Please excuse my doctor's writing, but we have feelings, thoughts, feelings, and behaviour. So it's a cycle. So the way it works is, let's give you an example, okay? You have a thought. So let's say the thought is, I'm weak. That's my thought, okay? So that moves my feeling. So that thought makes me feel something. And it makes me feel weak. It makes me feel sad. It makes me feel upset, depressed. It makes me feel lonely. It makes me feel useless, because that's what my brain's telling me, okay? So because I feel like that, I behave in a certain way. So I start to isolate, I withdraw, I stay in bed, I avoid people, maybe I don't eat because I feel useless, or maybe I eat too much because I'm trying to comfort myself. And because of those behaviours, that's fueling the feeling. It's affirming that feeling and making me believe it's true. So the cycle goes back round, and it goes round and around. And when I talked earlier about being in that spiral, this is exactly what it is. It's the feelings, it's the thoughts that lead to the feelings that lead to the behaviour, which then lead back to the thought. Okay, so CBT, in a nutshell, is about breaking that cycle. So taking one of those facets out of the cycle to break it, to get back on a more balanced pathway and think more balanced. So if you think about the fire triangle, if you've ever seen the fire triangle in school, or if you've ever done any fire training, you've got heat, fuel, and oxygen. And you have to take one of those away, and you won't get a fire. So if all three are present, you've got a fire. If you take away the heat, you don't get a fire. Take away the fuel, you don't get a fire. Take away the oxygen, you don't get a fire. It's exactly the same with the CBT cycle. So you've got your negative thoughts, okay? They lead to negative feelings, which lead to negative behaviour. Now, it's quite difficult to take away negative feelings because they are linked to what you think. So when you think something, it's almost an instantaneous response that make you feel a certain way, okay? And that is almost instantaneous about the behaviours. So it's really the thoughts that we start with to change the way we think. So then if the thought isn't negative, it doesn't lead to the negative feeling and it doesn't lead to the negative behaviour, and the self-sustaining cycle is broken. So the easiest one, I mean, it's not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but the easiest one to work on to begin with are your thoughts, okay? And I want to talk a little bit about, and this is something that really struck me when I went through therapy, was the concept of negative automatic thoughts. NATs, N-A-T, negative automatic thoughts. So we have them all the time. Everybody has them. They're just thoughts that pop into our head, and they can be about anything. And when you're depressed, your NATs generally tend to be negative things. Okay, so they tend to be things like, I'm weak, I'm useless, I'm stupid, oh, why did you do that? You're such an idiot, or nobody likes you. All these kind of things are negative automatic thoughts. And the problem with negative automatic thoughts is we assign them meaning. So we say, oh, well, my brain's thinking that, so it must be true. And we often see NATs as facts. And this is the mistake we make. And this is the big part of CBT, is to actually realise that NATs are meaningless. They don't mean a thing. They're completely arbitrary, and they're not facts. Okay? So what we need to do is highlight and label NATs. So when it pops into your head, I'm weak, you train yourself to say, well, no, this is just Nat again being an absolute dick and just coming into my head and trying to mess me up. So what you do is you push that Nat away and you say, I don't believe it. It's not true. And even if you do believe it, if you continue to say to yourself, that's just a Nat, doesn't mean anything, I'm not going to let it affect me, your brain starts to believe it. And over time and over training, your brain becomes stronger and it starts to reject these negative automatic thoughts. So one of the techniques, we're only really going to talk about two techniques today because I could sit here for hours and talk about loads of different techniques, and there's lots of different techniques that work for different people. But the two that I found the most beneficial that seem to work across the board are positive self-talk, that's the first one, and redirecting thoughts. So again, if you go back to that cycle, that self-sustaining cycle, if we redirect those thoughts and we label them for what they are, we break that cycle because they don't lead to the feeling. If you say in your brain, I'm weak, and then, oh man, that makes me feel so sad, that makes me feel useless, this is really bad. But then you get that thought and you say, actually, do you know what? That's just a gnat. A gnat can piss off, right? Off you go, see you later. I don't believe it. It doesn't have as much chance, especially in the beginning, of leading to those feelings. I mean, it might do a little bit, but not as much as it did before. And with training, and if you continue to label gnats for what they are and throw them out the window, eventually you'll do it without even thinking. It'll be, bam, self-conscious. It will be instantaneous, and it's a fantastic feeling. So the most important thing here is first is to acknowledge what gnats are, label them, own them, and throw them away. Okay? And then the two ways to do this that's really good, apart from labelling them, is positive self-talk. So I'm a huge advocate of positive self-talk. So I say this all the time in my training, is coach yourself. Even as a mantra, okay? You can say, I'm strong, I'm intelligent, whatever your hang-up is, whatever it is about yourself that you get worked up about, okay? Say the opposite, okay? Mine were, just see where my thing is. Mine were, I'm a failure, I'm weak, I'm stupid, and I'm unconfident. And I used to say that to myself constantly. The gnats would come thick and fast. Oh, Dan, you're stupid. Dan, you're a failure. What are you doing? You're weak. What's going on? All right? And I started to label them as gnats, and I changed it round. I started positive self-talk and saying, do you know what, Dan? You are strong. You are intelligent. You are, you're not a failure. You're doing well. And my brain didn't believe it at first, but when you keep doing it and keep training your brain, suddenly you start to believe it. And this is the fantastic thing about CBT, because you're rewiring those connections in your brain, and you're almost giving yourself the ability to see these things for what they are, take them away, and live a better life, which is fantastic. So positive self-talk. Coach yourself. I say a lot in my training, imagine you're the head of a sports team. Okay? Really good sports team. You've got a I don't know, baseball, basketball, whatever, football, rugby team. You've got all your rugby players there. You're the coach. You're in charge of their success. So what are you going to do? Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to nurture them. You're going to motivate them. You're going to tell them when they're doing a good job. You're going to reward them. Yes, you're going to be tough on them. And yes, you're going to get the results you want by coaching and getting the best out of them. But it's a balance. And what we generally do when we're depressed is that balance is so far off. All we concentrate on is the negative, being hard on ourselves, and we don't praise ourselves and we don't say the good things that then allow it to be more balanced and more healthy. So if you're in charge of a sports team and you want them to be successful, of course you're going to be the best coach. You're going to give them everything they need. You're going to give them the nutrition they need, the sleep they need. You're going to give them the motivation. You're going to give them the good training, and they're going to be successful. So why not have that view for yourself? You're the sports team and your brain is the coach. And if you start to look at it like that, you can start to say, okay, well, I understand what NATs are. I understand that I'm in charge and I'm coaching myself. So let's be kind to ourselves. Positive self-talk. Reward yourself. Tell yourself you're doing a good job. Take time out for yourself. Self-care. All these fantastic things that you can do to help your brain see things in a more balanced way. The other really great technique that I use, and I really find this one great, is redirecting thoughts. So let's say we're not quite strong enough yet to just chuck our gnats out the way. We're still self-conscious. We're still not so confident yet. So what we do is, rather than just chucking them out the way, every time we have a gnat, we redirect our thoughts to something else. So what I used to do in my early days, and I still do it now, let's say I'm having a bit of a bad day, and I have a gnat, I suddenly think, I'm weak. I get up and start shadowboxing. Okay, I put on my favourite song. I say to my personal assistant, I won't say her name now because she'll start talking to me. I say, basically put on whatever, put on Generator by Bad Religion or something like that. And I start shadowboxing to it. 3 minutes later, I've completely forgotten about that stupid gnat that was in my brain because I've taken my attention elsewhere. And you can do it however you want. You can do a couple of push-ups. You can grab your favourite book, read your favourite poem, put on your favourite TV show, put a movie on, eat something. Just something to take your mind from dwelling on that negative automatic thought and tricking you into believing it's a fact. So you're almost deflecting it. You're doing something else. You're redirecting your energies. And it takes a bit of training because the really funny thing about negative automatic thoughts and about depression is that it's addictive. You almost feel like you need to wallow in that self-pity, and you feel, and this is how it grabs you, and this is how it grasps your brain, and this is why retraining is so important, because it's addictive. So you need to almost, if you think about that negative negative automatic thought coming along, you need to cut it off, and you say no, and you say, okay, I'm going to go shadowbox, I'm going to go and sprint, I'm going to go and tickle my dog, I'm going to go and do some bicep curls, whatever it is, reading poetry, listen to your favourite song. Bam, we do it there and then. And this is also how we start to retrain our brain. And eventually, you can just see the gnat and tell it to piss off. I mean, we all get them all the time. It doesn't matter how healthy you are, it doesn't matter how much therapy you've had, we get them. But you label them for what they are, you discard them, and you do something different. And if you do that, eventually the way you see yourself is going to be so much more confident and so much more exciting. So those are the two main techniques I'm going to talk about there, really. So obviously these gnats, although they're meaningless, they don't just come from nowhere. They come from what's called our core beliefs. So our core beliefs are basically, well, they can come in two forms, and they basically arrive from our early childhood experiences. So the things we learn within ourselves first 7 years or so are generally what you believe in your subconscious, in your psyche, for the rest of your life. And you have to appreciate what they are. And generally, if we're suffering from depression, if we're suffering from, mental health issues, we have negative core beliefs. Okay, I'm going to share with you a couple of my original core beliefs that led to my my depression. Okay, sorry, you'll have to excuse me. I'm just looking at my notes. Okay, sorry. So my negative core beliefs, exactly as I was saying earlier, okay? I'm a failure, I'm weak, I'm stupid, I'm unconfident. They were my core beliefs. They were what I truly believed about myself. Okay, and these basically feed into things called rules for living. So they're things that we do to try and stop anyone from seeing those core beliefs. So again, I'm a failure, I'm weak, I'm stupid. That ruled my life. So my rules for living were I must show that I'm the hardest worker and the most successful. So I was constantly driven to be the most successful. And if I didn't make it, it spiraled my depression even more because I wasn't looking at it in a balanced way. Okay, so I honestly believe that if I'm not successful, then I'm a weak failure. If I don't have status, I am nothing. And these were my core beliefs that fueled everything I did. And the funny thing about core beliefs are, you can actually pick them. You can pick them. But what you need to do is decide or find out, do some real kind of deep soul searching, find out what are your core beliefs. And believe me, while you're looking for them, it's going to be ugly, it's going to be nasty, and it's hard to look at them, it's hard to think about them. But once you actually boil them down and realise what they are, you can actually change them into a more balanced core belief. So my nats, again, were, I'm weak, I'm stupid, why'd you do that, you're an idiot. And it was because my core beliefs fueled my nats. And same for everyone else, your core beliefs fuel your nats, okay? So I worked very hard with my therapist to basically change them into more balanced core beliefs. So my core beliefs became, instead of I am weak, it became, or I'm a failure. It became, I had my little sheet here. This is basically the sheet that I wrote during therapy, and I keep it by my bed and I read it every day. Okay, my core belief is I'm doing well, and it's my morals and intentions that make me a good person. So that's more balanced. I'm not saying I'm a failure. I'm saying actually I'm doing well. It's my morals and my intentions that make me a good person, not what I have, not my success, not the car, not the money. That doesn't make me a good person. My morals and intentions do. Second one was I'm weak. Okay, that was a real big one for me. And that became I have strengths as well as weaknesses, and both make me who I am. Weaknesses are nothing to be ashamed of. So now I've changed that mindset from, I'm weak, I'm a failure. No, I have both. And that's what makes me who I am. And that's more balanced. And the more balanced it is, the more realistic it is. And the last one, I had a big thing about status. I needed to compare myself to other people. I needed to have the car, the money, the job. Okay? So my core belief became, rather than I'm stupid, I'm a failure, it became, I don't need to compare myself to others to be happy. I like who I am, and I'll continue to grow. So I've changed my core beliefs to be more balanced and healthy. And again, once you've changed these core beliefs, you won't believe them. You'll just say it and you'll be going through the motions and you won't believe it. But things will start to happen which reaffirm your new core beliefs. So when my core belief was I'm weak, when something happened, like I fell over or I couldn't lift something or I was feeling sad, that fed into that core belief and affirmed it. And I said, well, yeah, I am weak because look what I can't do. But when I started to think of new core beliefs and continuously talk them over and over, when things happened that were good and successful and happy, they fed into my new core beliefs, so I started to believe them. So again, we go back to that cycle. It's all about training the brain to take those thoughts out of the equation. Okay, take those thoughts out of the equation so they don't lead to the feelings, they don't lead to the behaviours. Okay, so it's about, again, I don't want to go too in depth. I've gone way off the track here. I wasn't expecting to do a video like this, but the simple things you can do, okay, is to know what gnats are, label them for what they are, and do something to get rid of them. Okay, so you deflect them by doing something active, or do your favourite things, and constant positive self-talk. Constantly coaching your inner team, telling yourself that you're good, that you're strong, that you're fast, that, whatever your hang-up is, tell yourself the opposite. And you won't believe it at first, trust me, you won't, but time, training, effort, and you will, and things will improve, okay? I don't want to go on any more with this stuff because I only wanted it to be a brief kind of introduction to CBT and to the kind of things that you can do to help yourself. But what I really would like to do is encourage, again, I spoke about this earlier, encourage anyone who's going through anything like this, even if you just feel a bit down and you don't really know what's up, reach out to somebody, okay? Talk to your GP. If you don't want to go and see your GP, if it's early stages or anything like that, or you're a bit, I was terrified. I didn't go and see a GP for years. Okay, I lived in a state of just, depression, basically, because I was too scared to see my GP. But there's so many other things you can do. You can do 111, which is the NHS line. You can talk to someone on the phone, and they can tell you the best thing to do, and they can give you consultations on the phone, so you don't have to speak to anybody face to face, because it's very scary talking about your feelings openly. Very, very scary. But doctors are trained in this, and they're empathetic, and they know how to help you, and that's what they're there for. Okay, but the thing I really, really like more people to do is to do a bit of research online. So go to your NHS website, and like I say, Steps to Wellbeing is superb, and I'm sure the rest around the country are just as good. And they have had even like self-help modules, so you can just talk yourself through a little bit of mindfulness every day, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you can build on it. Okay. But yeah, don't be afraid to talk to people. Don't be afraid to see your doctor. Don't be afraid to express yourself. And trust me, I know how hard it is. I was pretty bad, pretty bleak. But these, they're so simple. These techniques, these CBT techniques, are so simple that I don't know why everyone isn't taught them at school. Because once you learn to understand your brain and how it works, and put these little things into place every day, oh man, the possibilities are absolutely endless. Anyway, I'm not going to go on anymore. I've had a fantastic time. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, so make sure you're talking about it, you're telling your friends about it, you're sharing the positive vibes, you're sharing the views, you're sharing absolutely everything, and open the discussion, okay? The more we can talk about it, the more we can talk about mental health, the more we erase the stigma. And I'm sure in 5-10 years, there'll be no stigma. It'll be gone, because it'll be so many people be talking about it, and we'll all be engaged about it, and it'll be, just as normal as breaking your arm or having a rash, okay? So yeah, fantastic to speak with you this morning. All I'll say for that then is, I'm Coach Dan. You guys are awesome. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much.